Hello and welcome back, everyone. Happy Monday on a Tuesday. Today we are going to be doing a rundown of Dev Diary 168, We Cannot Be Stopped, of course demonstrating that we could capitalize whatever we want to, and of course we should capitalize happy salutations for happy days of the week, as they are just and proper holidays. In this, we are going to be seeing some other changes, including some map changes, these types of things, just a little bit of miscellaneous, a little bit of shorter Dev Diary, but we've been getting 2 a week, that's 2 happy days, although there is a schism in the development team in that a lot of them are wishing us happy salutations, happy days with proper capitalization, and a lot of them are not. And so I assume that violence is occurring behind the scenes at Paradox, over this, but let's jump in and see what has going on. Hello, Pelly here. Happy Monday. Proper capitalization on proper salutation. However, it is the beginning of the sentence, and so one would infer that even if this were an incorrect capitalization, it's still a correct capitalization, and the more you think about that, the less sense it makes, but the less you think about it, the more sense you makes, and what really makes sense is mints. And so let's continue on, except not anymore. Normally, I send dev diaries alongside the developers, and we all edit and look through them. However, this time, behind my last barricade, I told you violence was occurring at Paradox. Resistance, before they breached the door, I must say that they have gone a little wild this time. A little wild. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally and the slightly more loopy prose in places. Loopy prose. Loopy prose? Prosy loopy. I'll get right back to you all. I can hear chants of 1,000 more words. They must be massing for an assault again. This is true. This is true. We've had a lot of long dev diaries. This is one of the shorter dev diaries. And to be honest, this is relatively speaking long. Look at all these sources. That's a lot of sources for a dev diary. But let's continue on. The sources, I said so. Okay. The sources is my diary and I'm a developer. Okay. Factory councils. Hello, this is Victoria. Hello, Victoria. Narrative design lead of Victoria 3. Of course, the name is game is named after her. The name is also gamed after her. Pelly wishes to call me Loopy. Wishes to. I think she just did. This, of course, is undialectical. Interesting. Undialectical nonsense. Loopy is a descriptor, as a descriptor, relies upon a point of comparison that is by no means transhistorical. It places a real individual up against a shining ideal of a bourgeoisie citizen, an utterly dull paragon of... It places a real individual up against the shining ideal of a bourgeoisie citizen. Can a bourgeoisie ever... I mean, if we're going to talk dialectics, can a bourgeoisie ever be a prototypical representation of an individual, considering that the bourgeoisie is an elite class and not the proletariat, which is the more common class? I mean, I guess it's a shining ideal, not a prototypical ideal, and so I suppose we could continue on. But an utterly dull paragon of civic virtue. Is the bourgeoisie... Has bourgeoisie ever really been a paragon of civic virtue, to whom none may ever compare? This is to say, it is pure ideology, critique of pure ideology, and thus unworthy of our limited word count. Bro, how many words is this? Okay, well, much ado about ado, and let's ado into more things related to Victoria 3. Besides, I am possibly the sanest person to exist. Press X to doubt. When I wish to challenge this ironclad sanity, I think about communism. Well, this is true. Every time communism-related question comes up in design discussion, it prompts discussion of dialectics, and then we bust out our Hegel books, and then we all cry. And then, for those of you who didn't get that joke, good job. You're not crying. For those of you who are crying, I'm sorry. I ruined it for you. It prompts a much pacing and head-holding. Much consternation, much gnashing of teeth. A recent, if you've ever read Hegel, your teeth have been gnashed. A recent example of these questions makes to the lack of communist-flavored labor associations law. This question has proved to be both quite difficult. In the context of talking about dialectics and Hegel and Marx, you're going to call this difficult? Okay, fair enough. And one of the quite easier communism-related questions we've ever faced whilst developing this game. This might be the loopy prose Pelly was talking about. The reason that it is quite difficult is because the positions that historical communists have taken regarding labor associations are largely tactical and circumstance-driven, ones of convenience, not pure ideology. A labor association is a historically specific term of organization. Our other laws in this category represent a variety of politics, or policies rather, advocated for within the context of the capitalist state. They imply the existence, so the idea is this is within the apparatus, not rejecting the apparatus and giving rise to revolution, which all proper communists would advocate for. This implies the existence of a political state that exists independently of and superior to labor associations. Yeah, this is the revolution. A predicate that communists seek to abolish. Yes, so the abolish through revolution. What would seek to abolish is a very, very whitewashed way of putting revolution. Okay, to fill the communist-shaped hole in this law group, then you put the square in the round hole. One must create a law that is not a law at all, but rather its negation. Oh no, Hegel, not like this. Not the negation. What comes after negation? We have the assertion, the negation, and there's the third movement of the dialectic, and I can't remember the name of it. The reason why, the synthesis, not like this. The reason why this is one of the easier questions is because we have been able to answer it. Can you truly answer a dialectical question except through the movement of history? And they said history ended, but they were wrong. Okay, factory councils. I'm having way too many tangents no one's going to get in this step diary. This is horrible. Factory councils, labor associations. We are going to have 25% trade union political strength, 50% minimum worker-owned manufacturing building levels. Interesting. Plus 50%. So this is like half communism. This half measure. You can't have a half measure in a dialectic. You have the oppressed and the oppressor, not the half measured. Okay, minimum of all these levels, minus 10% labor movement pop attraction, anarchist movement attraction, communist movement attraction. All right, fair enough. So we have this half communist factory council, half capitalist, but stronger than both. Jesus, the references. Factory councils is a law that is activated exclusively by a certain sort of revolution, a half revolution, if you will. It represents organic emergence of workers' councils to coordinate labor activities in a period of crisis and revolutionary tumult. Is there any other... Yeah, okay. It's always tumultuous, isn't that implied? When factory councils is activated, a portion of the industries in the country will come under the worker control, and the practical experience of such will make workers inclined to seek political control. Yeah, this is true. One may note that factory councils does not require a council republic. Factory councils represents bodies such as strike committees and workers associations seizing control of the economy, whilst a council republic represents these bodies seizing political power. In certain circumstances, one may achieve a kind of dual power, Hegel wouldn't approve, such that which is characterized as a space between Russian February and October revolutions. In such a scenario, a republic or a monarchy finds itself needing to contend with an economy that has largely been seized by the workers. Likewise, if a group of dedicated socialists somehow seize the control of the government outside of such a revolutionary situation, one may establish a purely formalist council republic without factory councils to provide its base. Okay. Ruler selector. All right. Hello, Victorians. I am Leon Norindo, modest QA on the Wiki team. I have previously added free content such as Sweden and British monarchy events and new historical characters in previous batches, but today I'm coming with a special feature of mine that I've been developing internally for a while with the help of our talented programmers. I want to make Wiki a bit more replayable from an ahistorical point of view, but mainly have a bit more fun with it by having the ability to start the game with a different ruler than the one you have given at game start. In order for this feature to be available, you will need to have the fantastical comment and game rule enabled. But this is enabled by default, so you should be able to do this while you should be able to see this while you start the game. Here we have a country Sorry, here's where the button is located. Always looking for the button. On the country selection screen, we see ruler selection, and we see we can select different rulers for our campaign. Oh man, so everyone's just gonna pick the cautious, literally cautious, he's literally cautious. Guy at game start. Okay. There's a randomized button at the top right corner if you're not happy with the 3 characters on the screen. The pool is limited, but this can be modded for more characters to show on the selection screen. God, everyone's just gonna randomize. All right, literally cautious. Let's go. All right, so set rulers, the number of potential rulers to generate a game start, the max number of potential rulers. All right. So when you are decided on a ruler, hit the bottom and you will get a warning that all historical content will no longer be available for the historical ruler you are replacing. So that means Great Britain, you just start with, you replace your starting guy and then you get to keep Hanover forever? Something like this. The only characters that appear in this selection are politicians, and you can mod in customized or other historical characters. I will possibly be adding fun characters in a future patch. Keep your eyes peeled for more of this later. I hope you enjoy this feature, and I look forward to seeing what playthroughs you do with a new ruler. All right. The fools let me do more in Africa. Jesus. Shout out to Belgium. Hello, Dave. Yes, you specifically, Dave in Des Moines. Hello to you, but to no one else. Wow, this is the rudest salutation we have ever seen. I feel like out of our indignity, we should just skip his entire section. What an indignity. Terrible. No happy Tuesday or Monday, and he only wishes a salutation to Dave. Awful. All right. Anyways, at Olaf here, Ofalof here, I want to implement some more improvements to Africa after slamming in some East African editions earlier this year. We've rightly gotten sass for how South Africa has been set up, and so we wanted to make some improvements. This is not a comprehensive lump of South Africa content and does not include the Boer Wars or the Anglo-Zulu War. It is more like something to help rectify the starting setup and get some action going, and to make you have to work a little to get your gold and print money. They've nerfed gold so many times, which I think is probably fine, but okay. The basic revisions start, of course, with the map. We see Zulu, we see a lot of change up here. We see Gaza has been moved, Zulu's been moved, Xhosa's new. Okay. Let's see. The challenge with South Africa in 36 is that a bunch of people were in the midst of trekking, and I don't mean Captain Kirk and Spock being best buds. The southern tip of South Africa has always been had been held by the Dutch until the British seized it during the Napoleonic Wars, and the farmers, Boers and Dutch, who had settled in the Cape before the British takeover, begrudgingly rule from London, doubly so once Britain abolished slavery. Begrudged rule, rather, not begrudgingly ruled. This unrest led to many people leaving the Cape and attempting to move north beyond the limits of British authority, culminating in what has been called the Great Trek, where thousands of families moved in the mid-1830s north of the Orange River, Oranje River, into what's now northern South Africa. That's like northern South Africa or southern North Africa. It's the former, but okay. The two early Boer settlements, Winburg and Potchefstroom, historically founded in 38, but set here a little early to make you to avoid making you switch tags a year in to play them, eventually coming to represent the nuclei of the Oranje Free State and Transvaal, officially the South African Republic, which were previously were the two Boer states present at game start in Vic 3. All right, so we have this, and okay, so Transvaal's in the north, I guess. Northern South Africa was an empty region, however, and the Boers weren't the only people moving there either. The Greek class, apologies for pronunciation, new culture this patch, were another frontier people born from a mix of Dutch settlers and local Khoi, San, and Bantu families, they were equally eager to establish their own lands beyond the British frontier. The Zulu kingdom, meanwhile, had boomed in power and prominence under Shaka Zulu, shout out, in the 1810s and 20s, and triggered a series of migrations, movements, and consolidations from both their own exiles and neighboring Bantu realms. Some of the kingdoms, like Basutoland and Swaziland, have survived to the present day as Lesotho and Eswatini, but not everyone was a winner. Jesus. Not everyone was a winner is like one way to describe colonialism, huh? Not everyone was a winner. Don't you mean nearly everyone was a loser? But okay. And some of the notable losers were the Mizikazi and Nidabeli people. He had like pressed by Boers on all sides and on one side and Zulus to the other. He left the Transvaal region in 38, taking followers with him, but leaving many people behind, and eventually invaded the Rasvi realm in what's now Zimbabwe. All this means that everyone is a mad scramble for land in 1830s. The Boers had just begun to settle these areas, populated lands in both Wynberg and Potchefstroom, now begin as unrecognized countries, struggling to gain diplomatic prestige, land, and easy access to foreign markets. The Ndebele migration to the north will give Boers and the Zulu kingdom, if it chooses to be proactive, a chance to make significant gains in Transvaal, and Boers from Wynberg, led by Piet Retief, or some other enterprising figure, can try to untactfully negotiate, my favorite type of negotiation, land secessions from Zulu, talks which are unlikely to go well. The Grikas, for the most part, will deliberately hang on to what they can, and Cape Colony will eventually want to impose some order on this chaos happening in the northern frontier. That is, of course, northern South Africa. We have the struggle for the Highveld. This leads to every South African country, starting with a new journal entry, the struggle for Highveld. The goal and interactions available vary little between countries, but they all have the same fundamental theme. One must secure supremacy in South Africa. For Cape Colony, this means all lands of South Africa must be under their rule, either directly or as subjects of Cape Colony, or as subjects of the Cape, or as subjects of Cape Colony's own colonial overlord. For everyone else, be they Zulu, Sotho, Nguni, Boer, or Grika, they must remain independent, become recognized, and have access to the sea. That's always an important one, so that they depend on no one else for access going to growing world of international trade. There are other methods of expanding into your territories. Offer confederation, nice. The Grikas and the Boers have the opportunity to confederate with other respective Grika and Boer states if they are strong enough and have research nationalism. This isn't initially usable by Cape Colony, however, Cape now starts with only English as primary culture, but this can change, so you can add Grika and Boer. Cape Colony can give either Boers or Grikas equal status to the English via exclusionary options. To make the colony more appealing to the Boers again, the Cape rulers will have to give up citizenship laws. It starts with and match the much more exclusionary laws of the existing Boer Republic, appealing to the crass attitudes to get on the Boers' side. To appeal to the Grikas, meanwhile, the Cape must become less exclusionary and work too hard to bring Grikas to a higher status in the Cape society before they can be accepted as a primary culture in the colony. If either the Boers or the Grikas become primary culture of Cape Colony, the respective confederation options will become available to the Cape. Should any country succeed in driving the loud car outside, they will gain access to all of South Africa and annex any same same culture countries in the region that are independent or subjects of the winner. Both Cape Colony and the Boer states also get to name the new flags reflecting their South African ambitions. Meanwhile, all other countries still competing will fail the GE, losing any claims they had on South Africa and South African ambitions. Meanwhile, all other countries will remember that we talked about Hegel at the start of the Step Diary and will have much consternation, gnashing of teeth, and traumatic memories, and will fail the journal entry, losing any claims they had in South Africa, and generally just having a real bad time. Yeah, you're telling me. Shout out to Hegel. And yeah, the starting situation has been changed in South Africa. There's a new journal entry to encourage everyone to scramble a little bit more as you try and consolidate the region under your rule, whoever you play as. Good luck, and I hope you enjoy South Africa, a region thematically appropriate for a patch, and do a DLC about Iberia. But I'm sure you do. You really wish us good luck and hope, or are you just wishing this to Dave? Shout out to Dave. Maps, men. Maps. Okay. Hello again, Lufthansa here. I'll keep this brief and sane. Will you, though? Building on Mike's South African map work, I'd like to use the opportunity to go over some miscellaneous changes arriving alongside the free patch, mainly map and database related, our favorite. We see the political map of Iberia. The eagle eye amongst you may spot the new Carlos revolt, but we've also shrunk down Gibraltar, Ceuta, Melilla, and make the borders more reflective of the historic situation. Do we have an additional state or less of a state? It looks like we might have more states. Generally, we see Leon has been added. I'm sure they'll just list it here, but generally when we see these, we see an improvement and a buff to resources in general. So continuing on. The much-despised Union of Valencia and Murcia has finally been dissolved. Cantabria has been given to Old Castile, and Leon has been turned into a separate state. In Portugal, the state regions have been reworked with the mid-19th century provincial map of the country in mind, with some necessary merges. Also, the shape of the reef now enables more historic borders. Dynamic state names have also been added across the Iberian region. So we're seeing an addition of several states, probably resource buffs. Interesting that Castile is now on the coast as well, so we have access to potentially larger navy, just expecting this to make the region more powerful in general, and also appease the people who live there and are like, hey, why did my borders look like that? Which is, well, actually that's a lot of people, like the people in Georgia right now. Continuing on, not the de jure borders, but the de facto borders. A little bit suspicious activity. Australeonese and Aragonese pops have been added to Iberia, and the total population of each state has been reworked based on the slightly upscaled numbers from the Spanish census of 1833. Portuguese numbers are in turn derived from miscellaneous secondary literature estimates. On here we have 1.1, 1.11, and 1.12. Big changes to the Saharan political map with the addition of numerous Arab, Berber, and Tuareg tags. Also note the changes to the western colonies along the African coast. For example, British colonies are now all controlled by British West Africa, a colonial entity including settlements in Gabon, Sierra Leone, the Gold Coast, and Ferdinand Po. Note that the Spanish have access to a decision to revoke the British lease of the latter island. And so we do see some changes in here as well, or quite a few changes, especially in the unrecognized ones, or not the decentralized ones. And okay, but someone's got to ask the real questions, which is, when will we get back Damagram? The answer is never. The truth hurts. You'll be missed. Here we have the Biden culture now represents the all Hassinaya speaking Arab Berber populations in the Sahel region, with the Bedouin reserved for the actual Bedouin tribes. Also, the Tubu people no longer live in the core Tibesti mountain range alone. And so we do see some cultural changes. We do see that these changes all been already been shown in a previous dev diary, but as always, it's good to have a side-by-side comparison to better illustrate the changes. A little bit of differences to the Philippines, a little bit more stuff that's uncolonized. Mike has already shown off most of the South African changes, but here's another nice side-by-side comparison as well. You can see Transvaal is a lot smaller, and Orania, and they are all in kind of more of a migratory pattern. Gaza actually looks a little bit bigger, and Zulu, there's some, okay. There's also some uncolonized bits next to Zulu. But okay, note the size reduction of all the Portuguese colonies to better reflect the 1836 situation, but I think that they have claims, so you can't interfere with them in terms of being able to gain control of it. Portuguese control of Mozambique was mainly limited to areas surrounding the Zambezi River, with smaller garrisons and trading posts along the coast. Quinine has been burned down by Gaza warriors who don't like words that start with the letter Q some years earlier, so it's not depicted as big under Portuguese control. Does that mean we won't have the weird being banished to the Shadow Realm effect? Via the fact that there's a Portuguese port and that port gets used for the inland stuff, so like anytime you do stuff in South Africa you get like banished to the Shadow Realm? I hope so. Pan-Cuban state is no more. The island now consists of 3 state regions, modeled the Western, Central, and Eastern Cuban departments of 27. The new Cuban states will mean that the certain regions are better suited than others for certain industries, with coffee and mining being more valuable in the east, tobacco and sugar being more viable in the west, and ranching being more viable in the centers. Shout out to Cowboys. So that'll be quite nice as well if you are going to play Cuba, now having access to 3 states. I assume just in the aggregate it will be a nice buff. Cuba was really nice as a super mappy state, though, and I guess that's probably going to be busted up, which is maybe a little bit unfortunate. Hubs on both the Greater and Lesser Antilles have been reworked, resulting in, among other things, Port au Prince, Santo Domingo, and San Juan now being the capitals of their respective states. Very nice, big nice even. The possible treaty ports have also much more sensible now, but looks and selection-wise, Guantanamo Bay, Mole St. Nicholas, and the Samana Peninsula can now be secured for your state if you so desire. We do maybe so desire. Have no fear. This is bold and audacious to say in a dev diary that talked about Hegel, and didn't talk about Hegel, but implied Hegel by referencing dialectics. Shame on you. Honorary Iberian Dutchman, we have not forgotten about you either. The Dutch West Indies finally is a thing. Depicted here is a large Jewish community in Quaracao, and their Papiamiento speaking neighbors. With 1.12, we've had the opportunity to add a boatload of new traits to the game, mainly centered on Iberia and the Caribbean. Some examples include the Rio Tino Basin, the Sierra Minera de Cartagena, the Douro Valley of Portugal, and the Tierra Roja of Cuba. The volcanic fertility trait has been applied to the relevant islands of the Atlantic Caribbean region, making these small but highly productive islands more valuable than they were before. But are they really that valuable? Maybe. There's certainly more than before. That's kind of a low bar to pass, though. We also do see nice little port modifiers here as well, which, of course, give us our favorite acronym, MAPI. We do see left-right. Additionally, it's left-right all for the same. I'm not going to read this left-right. It's all the same for each of these. There's been a global rework of sugar and wine production in 36, based on available historical data in the annual database of global wine markets from 35 to 2016. For sugar, this means greater concentration of global sugar industry in producers such as Spain, Brazil, Britain, US, and the Netherlands. Sugar is just too abundant, though, in general from the grain crops PM, so like you don't really care if it's available. Okay, wine, it has resulted... While for wine has resulted in large nerf to the production outside of Europe, with France, especially southern France, Italy, and Spain being the big winners, and the US and Russia being the big losers. Womp womp. The massive Ukrainian wine anomaly has now been contained and locked away forever. Terrible. Addendum, a free text article. Hello, everyone. Alex here. The despot Pelly didn't give me a dev diary this time, so I had to take matters into my own hand and hijack this one. Surely, as a member of the Resistance, you would wish us a happy Monday, but apparently not. Today, I bring you the latest Victorian technological advancement coming from treaties. Addendums, also known as free treaty articles. Since we came up with the idea of doing treaties, one type of article I really wanted to include was simply being able to write a text message in treaties. What? We couldn't do it as the release of 1.9, but I finally found time to do it for this release instead. To be clear, there's absolutely no mechanical effect on gameplay. It's purely so that you can insult within the other party in the treaty. Mostly, though, I look forward to seeing how this is used in our multiplayer community. Womp womp. Everyone's just going to get a little bit more racist. Including formalized custom agreements and stipulations of a treaty that should hopefully add extra spice to negotiations. See, this is the thing. In multiplayer, when we're casting and we're watching a multiplayer game, we're always terrified of these things because people are just going to put something just absolutely insane in the articles, and we're just going to be like, no, that violates the TOS, and then they're like, blank thing that violates TOS. We're not going to even go there. But negotiations almost fell apart while discussing the Philadelphia Agreement, as the involved parties couldn't agree on how to spell certain words. It's spelled colors, but okay. Please assert locomotives produced in Her Majesty's Queen as the royal colors as specified. Yeah, so here's the thing. There is the English spelling, the American spelling of English words is just generally better, but for certain words, like glamour, I do appreciate a little bit of an extra flair, and I'm not entirely sure if color should have an extra letter. So glamour obviously should have the extra U, but should color? It certainly adds a little bit more color to the word. And of course, this is like the most objectively incorrect way of approaching spelling, which is to just use all of one standard, because there's an American English standard and an England English standard, and it just has to be incorrect to use entirely one system, except for make a bunch of exceptions. But that's what I do. We spell glamour with a U out here, and everything else we don't waste ink on. But of course, glamour you have to waste ink on because it's a performative demonstration of the word itself. So spell glamour with a U. Well, we're done here. See you soon. Okay. Especially Dave. You. Okay, and hello again. This is the last narrative dev diary in the cycle. The time has come for our post our bibliography update 1.12 in Iberian Twilight. Here are the sources. We're not going to read through all of these because sources. As usual, we have not included many of the web pages we visited over the course of our research, which we did not keep records. Also, not included our works with which we did not engage beyond our quoting for flavor text. For those interested in the latter, we typically include attributions within our localization files appended in string to the string in question. Pelly again here. We seem to have gotten through it in one piece. Did we? I'm pretty sure you broke this up into 4 pieces, 1 to each developer, but okay. I hope you have enjoyed this dev diary as much as we've enjoyed writing it, though we may have lost something along the way. Surely our sanity, because we talked about dialectics and Hegel. I relived a trauma I never wanted to. Hopefully, we don't return to this level of writing ability for a long time. Dialectics, definitely not. If you didn't catch it earlier, we just announced that there will be a last chance bundle for Expansion Pass 2 from December 11th around 18 CET. We will have another pass next year, this time titled Much More Thematic Volume 3, which we will reveal about next year. This Thursday, however, we will join the art team and look through the art from Iberian Twilight. Alright, no outro, happy Monday, big sad, but we did get our capitalization, but it was a capitalization that's capitalized because it's the front of the letter, and we don't know how to think about this, but also we were traumatized by Hegel and much etc. We didn't even talk about Hegel, but we talked about Hegel. Certainly there was a negation, and then there was a synthesis, and then all right, happy Tuesday on a Monday on a Tuesday, everyone. Bye now.